everyone, Steve again. Just a quick little video here. This one's going to be about the war on drugs and if it led to the death of 3 innocent children last week in Chicago. The war on drugs seems to be a failed policy. The policy was put in place in 1971 by Richard Nixon when he declared war on drugs. When he declared war on drugs, he dramatically increased drug enforcement agencies, no-knock raids, and minimum sentencing laws, which have been a complete and utter failure. When you lock people up for committing a victimless crime, which is selling drugs or using drugs, then you have a cycle that continues over and over again in the inner cities. Guy sells drugs, goes to jail, becomes a convict, has no other choice but to sell drugs again to make money. This happens over and over and over again in the inner cities. And it leads to gangs and gang violence, because when you're trying to sell drugs and you got a rival, it's better to have backup, so therefore you join a gang, or you're already in a gang. And with gangs and drugs and money come guns. Always. That happened with Prohibition in the 1920s. You had the Mafia, which pretty much did the same thing that the gangs are doing now. They ran booze, they got guns, they fought the police, so on and so on. And we didn't learn our lesson from Prohibition. It wasn't very long before it was legal to have alcohol again. Well, let's learn from that finally after 40 plus years of the war on drugs and legalize some of these drugs. When you have an illegal trade such as drugs, it attracts criminals. And when you have criminals, you have violence. And when you have violence, you have innocent lives lost. In February of 2017 alone, 85 people have been murdered in Chicago. 85 people in less than 2 months have been killed. 2016 was the worst year for murder in Chicago. There was 762 people killed in Chicago alone, just Chicago, in 365 days. That's more than 2 a day, or really close to it. Just last week, 3 children lost their life. I'm going to read their names off because I don't want to try to memorize them and then insult them by reading the wrong name. They deserve more than that. Canary Gentry-Bowers was 12 years old when she died. 12. Let that sink in. Tequila Holmes, hope I said that right, was 11 when she died. And then Devontae White Jr. was 2 years old when he died. When he died, the person that was getting shot at wasn't even close to being hit. It's time for people in gangs and people that are involved in these shootings to take an inward look. Do you want the innocent children, your children, to be killed pointlessly? They haven't even had a future yet. They didn't even start to have a future. 12 years old is too young to die. I remember being 12 years old, and I thought, oh man, I'm gonna be a scientist or an astronaut or something amazing, like just the coolest job ever. It didn't happen, but that is not the point. The point is that you have the potential. At 12 years old, 11 years old, especially at 2 years old, you have the potential. Maybe a future scientist who's going to cure cancer was killed. The point is, you just don't know the future of these children, and they're getting killed in senseless violence that can be prevented. How do we prevent this violence? How do we stop it? There's one way. That's the war on drugs. Boy, has that worked really well. Time to stop the war on drugs. Let's put that money that we're spending on the war on drugs into prevention, education, and maybe even into some mentoring programs in the inner city. It's a simple solution to a tough problem. It might not be the right solution, but let's try it. Let's try something else. Let's stop locking up all these young men and women and creating the cycle that keeps them from doing something other than being in gangs and selling drugs. The violence has got to stop, and we can't stop it with more cops. The president said he was going to send in the feds if the violence in Chicago doesn't stop. That's not going to help anything. Cops are killing innocent people on the streets themselves right now. So let's just send more of them in. That's going to solve the problem. No, it's not. Cops are not going to solve this problem. This problem has to be interior. It has to be inside every single person who lives in the inner city. I don't propose to have all the answers. I don't know if I have any of the answers. But I feel what we've done hasn't worked. Let's do something else. Everyone involved. I'm talking about the cops, the politicians, and the people who actually live in the neighborhoods. Let's get together, let's work. I just wanted to talk about this because when I see young people die that don't deserve to die, well, no young person deserves to die, but you know what I mean. It makes me very sad. Very, very sad. I'm going to leave you people with the pictures of the 3 young children that died. So, please call your congressman, call someone, do something. Be active. Don't just sit there and be like, oh, the crime in my neighborhood's terrible. Do something about it. And maybe I'll help. Contact me. Contact me on YouTube. Send me a little message in the comments. Say, hey, Steve, why don't you come down here and help? Give me a job. I've said it before, give me a job. Give me something to do. Let's do this. I want to be active. I want to help. I'm tired of sitting on my butt doing nothing. Thanks, everyone, and good night.